those snot-nosed little brats. I was so happy when initially our boy just burst some into flames. Maybe it didn't go as hard as I was hoping, but when you see the caged in animal that they were using for sport start ripping through that crowd, I was not fearful. I was not angry at it. I was cheering. I was raising the roof because the amount of dislike I have for the mentality that a majority at this school have, where it's not even just like they're animal abusers, which is already makes you a garbage person. It's the fact that these are creatures that are so alive, so aware, and so intelligent beyond just a standard. So it's like, it's cruelty. It's like discrimination to just like a human, and just the way they talk, the way they insult and berate, man. I was not shedding a tear. I was excited when I started seeing people who were throwing wolves around, messing them up, get stomped and literally have their bones shattered by a big old KFC chicken, man. That was satisfying. And while I understand why our group had to stop it, and while I can see why they were a little more okay with Mr. Andrews at the end, I still, man, at that point, I would have just been walking through the doors. I would have said, you know what? You poked the caged in animal, this is what you get. Maybe some people will say I'm being way too harsh, but this is the type of anger and resentment that I had for a character like Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Amazing written character, the actor that portrayed him absolutely nailed it. You despise the character so hard because of how evil and low, and while technically these students didn't do anything nearly as bad as a Joffrey from Game of Thrones, it's in the same ballpark of hatred that it makes me resent their mentality so much, and how people like that, they don't even deserve a percentage of the life they currently have. This is hands down the best episode of Reign of the Seventh Spellblade, but is the most infuriating because of how good the writing is, and it really is a testament to that. This is kind of like the Harry Potter anime if it was good 100%. Now, full live reaction episode 4, if you want to see my full hatred in full, it's over there if you're interested. I mean, it is such a good episode, and I think it's the small details that really sell this show. So, like, one of my issues when I got older and really started to pay attention more to the books or even the movies of Harry Potter is how basic the world is. Like, it's such surface level, like the kill spell, right? The death spell in Harry Potter. It's the lamest thing ever. There's a couple of unique spells in the series. Like, I think the curse spell, the kind of torture one, was pretty cool, but the idea that our boy gets a pretty nasty wound on his stomach, and he starts using a heal spell. I just assumed he heal spells himself and he's done. But he has like a 30-second conversation with Mr. Andrews, and then we see that he's still going. Those are the moments that actually really make me appreciate the magic side of this world, because this author, when it's a more basic spell, someone casting a fireball or launching a lightning strike, it's never like we're focusing in, we're saying, ooh, look at the creativity. No, it's a pretty basic elemental spell. The things that get more attention are the ones that actually feel like they're thinking things through. If you have a nasty gash, should it really be an instant spell? If so, there would never be a threat. So now we know, if someone gets a wound to their heart and we start trying to cast the heal spell, there's no guarantee that the heal spell will actually save them in time. This wound, well, yes, if he would have left it unattended, maybe he might have bled out or been in excruciating pain that he passed out, but we can now tell that these healing spells aren't just a magical cure-all, which is kind of like the issue I have with a kill spell. It's just like, oh, you get hit with a kill spell, it's just game over. It's a one-shot KO. It's just like, what? Why? Like, it's so boring. And I think that's what's brilliant, is that the magic side of this actually feels like it's both being explored on a spell side, that feels like it's thought out deeper than just a basic bitch idea, but most importantly, the world itself and the discrimination towards, like, you know, demi-humans and these creatures. It feels like this is naturally what would happen, all things considered. Because, I mean, even though I think a majority of people don't like animal abuse, I mean, I think it's a pretty universal agreed that if you abuse animal, most people consider people like that absolute despicable pieces of garbage. But I do think a majority of humans, if we were thrown in a world like this, I don't think anything that different would be happening to what's happening with demi-humans, parading them around like circus animals. We already do that with animals in a way, so you can kind of make an argument we're already halfway there in a way. And I think that's what's brilliant, is that rather than having a character like Katie, who I keep saying is the best character of the show, and I stand by that 110%, the fact that there's one moment in the middle of this Coliseum where I actually didn't even notice it the first time. I only noticed it when I grabbed my screenshots, but I was actually surprised initially, because it was like, oh, this is a moment you would think she would be very upset with. Like, you're basically just, you're you're killing these creatures for fun, for sport. And there's one specific moment where you can kind of see her like flinch and like raise her hand to her mouth because she's just disturbed at what she's seeing. But instead of just saying, ooh, this is a girl who wants everyone to have equal rights, and just making her that's her character. No, I feel like Katie's just a genuinely good person who views everyone that, yes, should be equal, but instead just always, that's all we see from her. She actually feels like a person beyond just that belief. And it's really nice because I think it was in last episode I said, there's only like really a couple of characters that haven't really had a moment yet, and Guy was one of them. I take that back now. Guy is, I mean, amazing. He was like one of the first ones ready to throw hands, and it's kind of like a blink and you miss it moment, but when they get thrown into prison, aka detention, gotta love that, right? I mean, you can have succubus down there trying to sexually assault students and steal them for fuel for her monster babies, but you start attacking some discriminating students, no, we're gonna throw you in the slammer. I'm dropping out of this school, that's all I'm saying. But the point is that we see the three of them who basically caused the fight. They're all in separate cells, and Guy has a black eye. So we get to just really see, like, this is a man who is a ride or die for his homies, like 100%. And I appreciate that rather than just making each of these characters a plot-specific character, like, oh, we're only gonna have this character for a sad backstory when the love interest die, or we're only gonna have the smart book type character because we need to know certain things in the middle of a battlefield. Everyone just kind of feels like a person, and they're taking their time. I remember there was some criticism with episode 1 that there was a lot of characters and we didn't really get to know any particular one outside of the main two, but I really feel like between 2 through 4, we've actually started to understand them all as a person rather than what plot specific device they'll be at any given moment. I appreciate that, I really do. I think I said it with episode 1, and a big part of that was because I knew that this was one of the more recommended light novel series over on r/light novels on Reddit. But I said it was going to be a hit, and I think this episode proves that it 100% is. We had like a nearly 10-minute fight between KFC and our students, and that camera work, the 3D spinning around, I mean, there's so many shots that I'm surprised weren't 3D animated, and I have to admit, that was some dynamic camera work. I like the idea of our boy launching himself. He kind of like breaks apart a piece of the floor in order to propel himself forward. That's where he kind of gets the nasty gash across his stomach. It really felt like this was something that hit your emotions. When you see our girl just freak out saying, how dare you, and then they start whipping bottles at her, you're like, fuck them kids, bro. Let's see them all get slaughtered, and then they start doing it, and I'm like, oh, that's happening? Damn, it's a shame I'm looking the other way, right? If only I would have been looking your way, I might have been able to stop it. But you know what? Some people may say I have an irrational hatred for these kids. Maybe, but I don't like them. I don't like them one bit, and I was happy to see them get some just dessert. Though I will say, Mr. Andrews, I actually was kind of happy that he made it, because the character arc here I do think is interesting, and I think he's one of the more least despicable out of that group. And the idea of almost like pressure from your family to be a specific way, like I can kind of see how that would kind of make you a little more toxic. And I do hope he becomes a better person overall, because I think he definitely had a wake-up call this episode, and you love to see that. Now, of course, those are just my feelings. I definitely had an irrational hatred for these characters, but let me know if you did as well. Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Reign of the Seven Spellblades to the channel. And like I mentioned, full live reaction to see my pure uncut hate is available over there if you're interested. And while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Claire, Jim Solo, Q Fokker, AMV, Rachel McPhee, and Ranga Rage. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.